What if you could go wireless without losing any tone and without breaking your budget? The Xvive A58 promises pro-level wireless performance at a fraction of the price of the bigger brands. But can it handle the bass? Can it deliver clarity, punch, and reliability night after night? Let's put it to the test. Hey, I'm Twisty, and remember, your bass rig is not just a bunch of parts, it's a system that you put together. And in this video, we're going to look at the part of the system that goes between your bass and your amp or your modeler. We're going to take a real world look at the Xvive A58, which is an upgrade to their existing U2 guitar wireless. And this one's aimed at the 5.8 gigahertz range. It's built for beginner to intermediate players who are looking for a little bit more freedom on stage than the cable provides, but they're not looking for 150 meters worth of stage presence. We're going to talk through the specs, and we're also going to look at how it performs with my BB734 in both active and passive mode. And towards the end, we'll also see if it works with my Attitude bass with the dual output. Let's have a look. If you've gigged long enough, you've known the pain of dragging cables around. They get coiled up, they get knotted. You can step on your lead, or worse, the singer will step on lead for it and pull it out of your guitar. And it just takes up extra space in your gig bag, but they are reliable. If you've thought about going wireless, but you're not sure whether it's going to mess with your tone, how reliable they are, and if it will work with an active bass, or you may have heard some of those horror stories of the wireless picking up radio stations. Yes, that used to happen in the late 80s, but the digital systems don't do that anymore. And what about latency? Is it a big thing? The bass has a lot of low frequency, especially if you're looking at a 5-string bass or using octave pedals. Does the Xvive A58 handle those low frequencies and work as a workhorse for a bass player? Let's have a look at some specs. Now, as a caveat to this video, the Xvive company did send me this A58 to have a look at. They haven't paid me for the review. They don't know what I'm going to write. And so anything that I say in this video is actually my opinion. They'll find out about it when you do. Now, the A58 is running at the 5.8 gigahertz range. The most common frequency for wireless systems in the intermediate space is 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz. 2.4 gigahertz has been around for a number of years now, and my existing system with the Line 6 uses that. But so does Bluetooth, your mobile phone, routers, etc. So playing in venues, like I was last night, every now and then you'll get a dropout because there's lots of other things trying to compete for the same frequency. But one of the advantages of 2.4 gigahertz is that it actually goes further than the 5.8 gigahertz. The advantage of the 5.8 though is that it means there's less congestion. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth runs at 2.4, so there's less things going to be competing for the frequency range when you're at 5.8. It's a much more dense signal, so the distance isn't as far, but if you're in that intermediate stage area, you're not looking to go 100 meters across to see the guitarist or run around after the singer. So it works quite well in those small venues. The latency of the device is around about or less than 5 milliseconds. To put that into perspective, 5 milliseconds is around about the length of a 5-meter cable. So I've never noticed that latency period. And as you play through, or as I play through in an example, you'll be lucky if you hear the delay, because I can't, in real world perspective. The device has a dynamic range of 110 decibels and a resolution of 24-bit 48 kilohertz. So with that range and resolution, you're looking at studio quality transmission, as if you were recording it yourself. Now, the frequency response is important. It goes from 20 hertz up to 20 kilohertz. So it's the full spectrum of range, which means it's great for the bass, because for bass, you need to be able to get down to about the lower, around 20 hertz. Even though I often cut it at around 40 to keep out of the drum, it gives that headroom of frequency range, and above 5 kilohertz is again white noise, but the ability for the transmitter to capture the whole signal, and then you deal with that later in your effects units or your amp modeler or your EQ is a major benefit. So the transmitter and responder are not going to impede the signal that's going through to your amp or the front of house. The battery life is reported to be about 5 hours, and from the gig that I did last week, it seemed to be about the same. I played 3 45-minute sets and I didn't have to recharge beforehand. Now, one of the major benefits of the A58 is that it also includes an active and a passive mode, which is great for when you're using a bass which has active pickups on it. So when I put this into its active mode, you'll hear it won't distort out. It takes account of the hotter pickups. But you can also run it with passive pickups in that passive mode. As far as channels are concerned, it takes up to 6 channels and can auto scan to see which ones are the best available, which means you can have up to 6 of these devices on stage with you without conflict. Now, if I'm using 2 on my Attitude, that gives 1 for the guitarist, 1 for the other guitarist, and I've still got 2 more left that I could play with if we needed to. And so from a full range performance and low latency response, this device actually ticks all the boxes that I need as a bass player. From a configuration perspective, we've got one which is the receiver, and the receiver then goes into your amp or the back of your HX Stomp or your Quadtronics or whatever device you're using to receive the signal from your bass, so whatever you currently plug your cable into. And then you have a transmitter which goes into the bass. Now the receiver has an on-off button, and it also has a change frequency and a scan button. So if I turn that on and then hold the button in, it will then scan for the best frequency and select the most available one for it, which in this case is channel 1. I can then plug that into my amp, and then the receiver, I can turn that on. With the mode button on the side, I can change the channel till it matches the one that's on the receiver, and you'll see there's a green light to show that it's connected. So if I'm running in passive mode, I just need to plug that in, and away we go. I can bend it to the side or around to the other side so it gets a bit more out of the way. It is a chunky unit, but it's out of the way and I don't notice it. I find placing it upwards means I can still put it in the guitar stand. Putting it down the other way gets in the way a bit, so that's my advice, put it that way. Now the only downside I found with this was to change its mode again. Once it's plugged in, I couldn't change the mode from active to passive. I had to pull it out, turn it off, turn it back on again, then I could hold the button in and change to active. And again, then once I'm in there, placing my bass into active mode, and then we go. But as simple as that. So basically pretty well plug and play. I do recommend the scanning. The scanning will allow you to, at the venue, work out what's the best frequency at the venue, rather than you trying to change channels and work out which is the best one. Usage of this is, as I said before, probably targeted towards the small club or the small to mid-sized venue where there's a bit of stage, you want to get it away. I would use it even in a small studio because I hate cables under my feet. I just hate them. So I would use it even if it was in a 2x4 box because I just don't want the cables under my feet. But its range is up to 100 feet or around about 30 meters line of sight. Now, obviously, the more people that are in front of, between you and the receiver, or the more things that are in the way, then that will reduce. So if you start crowd surfing in the middle of a mosh pit with your bass and you're still trying to play, some of the bodies may impact that distance. So just be careful of that. Otherwise, up to about 30 meters, 100 feet is what's recommended line of sight range. Now, I did a walk around the house. I went up a flight of stairs, I went behind 2 walls, and I was able to get signal for most of that. So it seems pretty good. There'll be a link below for Amazon. If you select that link, you can help out the channel with no extra cost to yourself, or go to one of your favorite guitar shops and try and pick one up. It's around about 150 US dollars, which I think was around about 220 Australian dollars when I picked up a second one. Why did I pick up a second one, you ask? After Xvive sent me one to play around with my BB bass, I thought I'd try it out with my main gigging bass, which is my Attitude. So I went and bought a second one. From a placement perspective, they're a bit chunky compared to the Line 6 Relay 10s that I've been using, which fit nicely in here, but have been dropping out recently in certain gigs because of congestion. So I'm looking at the 5.8s. So connecting them in, I need to bend them up a bit and turn them away. And then the second one, do similar. So again, it looks a bit dorky on the front because they're not hidden behind like on a normal bass, but they do fit. So anyone looking for them for an Attitude, they do fit. It sounded okay and worked quite well. I wasn't getting interference between the two, and they picked up that they were in 2 different channels, so seemed to work okay. So here's the big question. Does it sound as good or better than the cable? Let's have a look at these couple of examples, and then you can make your mind up and let me know in the comments below what you think of them. If these videos are giving you value, please leave comments. I try to respond to all of them, and hit the like button if you can. Even better, subscribe. That'll help me grow the channel more. So I'm not sure if you could hear the difference in those examples. I really struggled to hear them. I played them back a couple of times. I had headphones on, you know, and I couldn't really hear it. The punch is there. The grit from the overdrive was still there. The lows didn't vanish, and that's pretty well everything I cared about as a bassist. The mids were going straight through. I could cut through. It sounded really good to me compared to the cable. What I did find with the Attitude, and now it could be because I'm using the Relentless pickups, they're really hot. So what I had to do is I had to set these as if they were playing on an active bass. So that seemed to give them a bit of a filter. I was getting, playing it through, it sounded good to me, but when I recorded it and played the recording back, there was lots of clipping going on. Just be careful that if you are using it with an Attitude bass, try looking at with the active turned on to give it a bit of a buffer for those hot points. So in my opinion, after trying it out, I think the Xvive A58 is definitely worth considering, especially if you play bar gigs, small to mid venues, you use a pedal modeler like the Helix, so it works really well with that. Stick it in the back, stick its ear up, and you're good to go. Especially if it's playing at your feet or just behind you like I have mine, then that distance and that line of sight's never going to be an issue for you. Again, try to avoid the mosh pit. Would I gig with it internationally or on a large stadium? Probably not. It's not professional grade and it isn't meant to be. It is aimed at the intermediate player in those smaller club pub venues. For the bigger stuff, I would probably look at a rack mounted unit running in the digital UHF frequency range, which will give me a lot more frequencies to choose from. Scott Uhl's just done a video, I'll put the link above somewhere, on his latest video on the Sennheiser. Check that out and see what you think of those if you're looking for something a little bit more sturdy and robust. But again, if you're looking at bar gigs and smaller venues, and really all you want to do is get rid of the cabling from your feet, then, and maybe do a few ZZ Top dance moves, then the Xvive's great and I definitely recommend it. And if you haven't seen it yet, then check this one out next. See ya.